Much shalom. Thank you guys. So let's break this bread. Someone a while back said to me, when I first came into the truth of the Bible, well, they didn't say it to me, but to someone else, and they said, well, what makes you think your way is right? And I was reading in Daniel today, or this morning, and it was chapter 4, yeah. And King Nebuchadnezzar was just talking about the awesomeness that is Yah and how he worked in him. So I think I'm gonna do a segment. Let me tell you about my Yah. So let me tell you what he's done for me. I grew up Christian Baptist most of my life, as far as I know, and outside of seeing my mother's relationship, I've shared this before, I knew it was real for her, but he wasn't real for me until I became an adult. I had little moments here and there where I kind of saw a glimpse, but like real, like consistently hearing the voice of Yah. So let me tell you about him. Oftentimes, I think we're supposed to share testimonies, and I think in this walk, at least, we can get lost on how we need to uphold the laws and this and that, and we need to call them this certain name or that certain name. But we're just gonna brag about how good he is on this segment. So let me tell you about my Yah. There's a testimony that for all my children, but my most recent child, for those of you who don't know, all my pregnancies, I've never carried full term. And before her, they've always been early. The furthest I got was 36 weeks. And it was just an expectation. And I remember after my first, it was just an expectation. Oh, girl, you ain't gonna make it that long. And I never got to have a baby shower besides 2, because literally 2 of my pregnancies, the day before my baby shower, I had them. So anyway, fast forward to my 4th pregnancy, I prayed and I prayed. I was like, okay, if you can just get me to 37 weeks, that is guaranteed without complications, of course, that she won't be in NICU and we can go home. I don't have to have a long hospital stay, blah, blah, blah. And that was my prayer for a long time. And it was hinted throughout my pregnancy that we were going to make it. And I believed and believed and believed for her to make it to 37 weeks. And so 37 weeks came, and that was an accomplishment, because again, I didn't, my longest before that was 36 weeks, and the other ones were 34 and 33 weeks. So I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Father Yah, that is a testimony already. And 37 weeks came and gone. Here's 38 weeks, and I'm like, okay, I can have her now, like it's all good, yeah. But my Father is so good. Anybody who has had a relationship with him knows that when you pray for something and it is according to his will, he always gives you more than what you ask for, because he's just good like that. And we can't handle his goodness. I mean, he blows my mind every time. And it should not have surprised me, but it did. So here's 39 weeks. Nothing. Now, at this point, I was thinking about how my other pregnancies went. And usually, right before I have them, maybe about 2 weeks before they actually come, I have signs that they're trying to deliver soon. So at this point, I'm telling y'all, nothing was going on. I wasn't having Braxton Hicks that I remember. Maybe every once in a blue moon, but nothing that resembles my prior pregnancies. So anyway, nothing going on, no bleeding, anything. And here comes 39 weeks, nothing. And I did have a false alarm. I thought I was going into labor. I thought my water broke. TMI, but they were like, oh, you just used on yourself, that's all. But I was like, nah, I know, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you. So, backtrack a little bit. When I first got the expected due date, they said February 7th. And, spoken over me by a few people. Oh, girl, we know you ain't gonna make that. We know. And I had to speak against that because, again, and I made a video, which I had to take down, and I'll have to reload that later after I revise it. But it was about revisiting the topic of how powerful our words are and what we believe. The Most High knows what He's doing. That's why the Word says, without belief, it's impossible to please Him, because over and over again we saw how people who did not believe, your result wasn't even a result. It wasn't even what you wanted it to be. You want to ask Him of things, or not even just material things, but you want Him to deliver you from certain situations, but yet you're not believing for it, or you're putting your trust in the wrong place. Like, there's so many people who are sick and have long-term sicknesses. They've been sick for years, and you're saying, oh, I believe, but you run into the doctor. And don't get me wrong, y'all. Don't get me wrong. I know this is very controversial. But I know that Yah has put certain physicians, not all of them, certain physicians on this earth to be of help. I know that. I've seen it in my own life. So please don't get me wrong. I am not hating on the healthcare industry. There are people who are appointed for that. But on the flip side, for those of you who believe that's the only place to turn as far as who Yah uses, Yah can bring your healing through a donkey if He wanted to. He allowed a donkey to speak to Balaam. Is that his name? Yeah. Balak and Balaam, whichever one. Y'all know who I'm talking about. So it's one way or the other. A lot of times people put their whole trust in Yah and just don't go to the doctor at all. There are some who don't believe going at all. And then there are those who are the opposite. So I struggled with that for a long time, on whether I should go or not. But Yah has used both sides. His grace is sufficient. Hallelujah. So anyway, my point is, Yah expects us to trust Him. He said that it's impossible for me to be pleased with you when you don't believe. And so that so rang true in everything, but especially through this pregnancy, because I was so used to people telling me I'm not going to make it, And when I started realizing how strong your words are and how effective they can be, whether they are life or death, because we know that our words, in our tongues, there's life or death. So what are you speaking over yourself? So I started to refuse, reject, and rebuke those thoughts, because it got to the point where even I was saying it. And I'm like, oh, girl, I know, girl, you know how it goes. But no, this pregnancy, I was like, no, I'm going to believe for my Father to do this thing. He is going to come through. And let me tell you, he did. So that's how good my daddy is, because 40 weeks comes, and then the contractions start rolling in. And my baby was born February 7th, 40 weeks. She was the biggest baby I had. She was small still, 6 pounds even, but that was my biggest child. I mean, look at, from 6 pounds on my last one, and I started out with a baby who was 3 pounds and 11 ounces for my first one. Yeah, it's good. Do you hear me? So, for those in the past who said, well, what makes my way the way? Well, first of all, it's not my way, it's his way. And I have grown since then, and I realized God has people, his people are coming from all ways of life. He is gathering them to that narrow path. And that could be with a background of Muslim, Buddhism, Christianity, whatever. He pulled me out of Christianity, and I know he can use whoever he wants. And there are people who don't call him when I call him and have a relationship with him. I have seen that. Now don't get me wrong, I don't believe in that whole philosophy that Oprah and them try to push, like, oh, we all have our way to God. No. I am not saying that. We all may have different backgrounds that we are coming from as far as what we started out with, but what we are going to end with is the narrow path, the one and only path. Because if you come any other way, he says you're a robber, you are a thief trying to get in where you don't fit in. We all have to go through the one door, and that is the Messiah. So please do not get it twisted in my words, what I am saying to you. All I'm saying is, believe in this King right here, the creator of the heavens, of the earth. You call him whatever you want to call him. My conviction is Yah, and I'm on that, and I'm assured in that. So again, for those who say, what makes your way the way of truth? For one, it's not my way, it's his way, and I'm choosing to follow that way and go that way, which is the narrow path. And it makes you look crazy. It makes you look like, okay, she's in a cult, she's brainwashed, she's this, she's that. I've heard it all. But when you say what makes that the right way, well, I am seeing the fruit. I grew up in Christianity. I'm not gonna talk on that topic. You want to research Christianity, go look it up. I've done my research, and they are my reasons. I have my reasons why I choose to disassociate with that denomination. I encourage you to look it up as well. But my point is, I see the fruit. We talk about, especially in Christianity, and I'm only going to speak on my experience, so please don't think I'm nitpicking on anybody. But what I have seen as a prior Christian was, or is, we talk about all these works and deeds of the Most High, and how, yes, we are to lay hands on the sick. Yes, he will come through. Ain't he good? Won't he will, girl? Yes, he will. But I didn't see much of all this goodness they're talking about outside of he paid my bills. Which, don't get me wrong, that's excellent. That is marvelous. That is wonderful. He does operate financially. But unfortunately, at least from my experience, a lot of his goodness and his power was mostly based on financial blessings. And Yah is so much bigger than financial blessings. He said he's good. He wants to share all of his goodness and not just in one area. And I think that is the error that we have made in this whole prosperity gospel message. It's not all about prospering. We also have to suffer through things. I had to go through 3 pregnancies before I got a child who was fully delivered. I've had babies in NICU. I have to share the testimony of my son, where CPS got involved. I had to go through some things that had nothing to do with finances. They were suffering, but man, did he bless me in each and every one. And I'll have to come back and share my son's birth and how that went down. But nevertheless, with this child, 40 weeks made on the exact date. And for those of you who don't know about numbers, what I have learned so far, the number 7 is, it means complete. It is the number of completion. And so is the number 40. And I know that. Think about the Messiah and Moses and all them that did the 40-day fast. That was the number of completion, and they ended their fast on the 40 days. So just look up the history behind the numbers, and you'll see for yourself. But nevertheless, my child was born on the 7th day of the month, and she made it to 40 days, or I'm sorry, 40 weeks. This was a completed work. He brought it to its fullness, and my father is amazing. And let me tell you about him. Do not allow people to speak over your life what goes against the promise. Because I asked and I received. And he said, not only am I going to get you to 37 weeks, but I'm going to get you to the completion. I'm going to complete this work that I am doing so that they may know. And then let me add on top of that, when I first started going to my appointments for my care, I went through 2 doctors. The first doctor, after he saw my history of premature labors, he was trying to put me on a, well, I don't remember the name, but it was shots. And they were steroid shots. And if I'm remembering right, if it was not every week, it was every 2 weeks for my entire pregnancy, starting at 16 to 18 weeks of gestation. He wanted me to take this shot for the entire pregnancy to not guarantee, but up the what am I trying to say? Basically, he was trying to defy the odds and say, well, I can't guarantee that it's going to work. It may not make a difference at all, but this will help mature her lungs and do this and that and the third to get you all the way to completion, to the 40 weeks. And I'm not big on medicine, y'all, especially not no steroid shots. And I was like, no. But why I switched doctors was because after I expressed the concerns about that, it's like he didn't hear me. He's like, oh, well, you're only this amount of weeks anyway, and we can't start them until X amount of weeks. So that's only 2 weeks from now, so we'll get you started then. So he wasn't even trying to hear me. And I was like, okay, I ain't dealing with this. So actually, I tried to switch to another doctor that was highly recommended by quite a few people. Turns out they work for the same company, and they're actually partners. So they exchanged notes, and he came back. He's like, well, actually, my opinion is the same as your current doctor, but you're a grown woman, so you can refuse it if you want to. I ain't gonna bother you about it. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna roll with you. So I'm liking this doctor, and he's with me throughout the whole pregnancy. And come to find out, when I actually get to the hospital to deliver her, he is gone. And the doctor that's on call was the first doctor. And let me tell you about my guy. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that doctor was there to see how good my guy is, because he didn't believe that I was going to make it all the way to completion. He believed in his medicine. He believed that that is what was going to get me through. But yeah. And I remember after I delivered her, he was like, man, you made it. I mean, it looked like he was surprised. And I'm like, my guy is good. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna have to share my testimonies more, but I just had to come and share that with you all. Be encouraged. Do not allow man or woman or child or chickens, whoever, to speak over your life and limit who Yah is. If he wants you to have what you are asking for, you better believe it's going to happen, and it's going to be in abundance. There has never been a time where Yah has not come through, and he decided to add a little extra on top of that. My Father is so good. Do not trust to seek out man and what he has for you, because man will fail you every time. Because with man, it seems, or it is impossible, but with Yah, all things are possible. I was told over and over again for years, you ain't gonna make it, you ain't gonna make it. And because I believed those words and I internalized them as truth for myself, I had someone tell me the pregnancy before, I had an immature uterus. For those of you who think that's TMI, I'm sorry. Go on to the next channel, I guess. But that's what was told to me. And it's like they were trying to tell me something was wrong with me. Something was wrong with my body. No. My Father knows what he's doing with me and my body. And he made me exactly how he wanted me to be. And it may seem like to you I will never be able to carry all the way, but look what happened. 3 premature labors, and my 4th labor I carried all the way, and nobody believed in that. But because I chose to believe the promise, I chose to believe the Creator instead of the creation, look what he did for me. So be encouraged. If there is something or someone that you have been praying for or about, and it is according to Yah's will to fulfill that prayer, you better know and you better hope. And guess what he said? He said, Abraham, because he believed, it was counted to him as righteousness. And what I have been meditating on as of yesterday, when we make a point to know his righteousness, we have rights. Let me say it again. When we make a point to know his righteousness, we have rights, because when you walk upright before the Most High and you obey his laws and his commands, and you are his child, and you are choosing his ways instead of your own or the next person's, he honors that. Because you are an American citizen, or wherever you are, because you are a citizen of that country, there are certain rights that are given to you, right? Well, when you are established in the King, let me tell you, you have kingdom rights. You have the right to go before your Father with boldness, that you might obtain mercy before his throne, and say, Father Yah, like the prophet Elijah, I need you to rain down fire from the heavens. Do you know that he answered that prayer? Go read Hebrews. Go read, what was he in, 1 Kings? Go read that. Do you know, yeah, is it Hebrews 11? Which is, I call that's the chapter of faith. Look what faith can do for you. You have kingdom rights. You have kingdom rights when you make it a point to walk in his righteousness and find out what that is. What does that mean? So anyway, I can go on, but I just had to share that with y'all. My Father is good. You want to know why I chose this way? Because the fruits are bearing. Do you hear me? The fruits are bearing. And that's all that is. And I pray that whatever you've been praying for, that it comes to fruition. But you have to hold on and believe. You have to be steadfast like Daniel. You have to be steadfast like Abraham. He didn't know where he was going. He just walked because he was told to move. Walk in the power. Walk in the righteousness that is your Father in heaven. Do not expect to receive anything without belief. That's what that word says. If you ask and you waver on that, he said, let that man not expect to receive anything from Yah. So no matter what the doubters say, you don't become a doubter. That does not mean doubtful thoughts will not come, but he has the expectation of you to fight those doubts away, to fight them off. When the doubts come, you say, yeah, I rebuke you, because I know what my Father has for me. My faith is the evidence of what I cannot see. If I can see it, is that really faith? No. Hold on to the promise that your Father is trustworthy and reliable, because man will fail you all the time. Stop putting your trust in a system that will fail and has failed. When you have the trustworthy, reliable King before you. That was our problem when Samuel was alive on this earth. We begged and begged. Someone, please, Samuel, put somebody over us. Please, please, please. We need a ruler. He's like, do you not know that you got a king in the heavens? Nah, he ain't good enough. We need a king. We need something tangible. We need signs and wonders. We need somebody who can move, that we can see. Even when it was laid out, okay, this king is going to lead you into this, and y'all going to be messed up over here. Y'all, your sons and your daughters are going to be this and that. It's just not going to be good for you. We don't care. We'll deal with it. Boy, if that don't ring true today, we don't care what the consequences are. We are just itching to have somebody rule over us, but we don't even want the original ruler. We rather worship the creation rather than the creator, Romans 1:25. That's a shame. We ought to be shamed. But that's because we are lacking in faith. We are not holding on to the promise. We are not believing him to be trustworthy. And you know why? A lot of it has to do with because you can't see. Because you can't see, you don't believe. What is that statement that we have coined? Seeing is believing. No. Seeing what you cannot see and holding on to the promise, holding on to the truth, that is believing. Trusting in someone who you cannot see but has proven himself. He's evident in his creation. That is where your faith, that's where your faith should lie. And people want to say, oh, well, you sound crazy. Why would you believe in something you can't see? Oh, you mean like the air that you can't see, but you believe it? You can feel it. You can hear it. But, hey, everybody can't feel. Everybody can't hear. Everybody can't see the goodness that is Yah. And unfortunately, that's a part of the game. We are not all called, but those of you who he is calling, I'm talking to you. Trust your Father and know that you know that he will deliver you. He will heal you. He will bring that person back home. He will deliver that person out of whatever they're going through, if it's according to his will. But he honors someone who trusts in. Blessed is the man who trusts in Yah and whose trust is Yah. He loves a faithful servant. He loves a servant who is willing to face every man on the block who goes against him, for the simple fact that they trust in their Father and they are going to hold on to him. And that is a very timely message for today, because we see, I want to say slowly but surely, but it's picking up, y'all. Swiftly but surely. They are stripping away everything that has to do with the Most High, because we about to see who's going to stand for him. So be like Daniel. Get your mind right. In the midst of the fiery furnace, know that someone, the King, the Messiah, is standing in the midst along with you, no matter what anybody says, no matter what circumstance, no matter how many preterm labors you've had, no matter how many times you failed the test. Get up and do it again, and believe that your Father will deliver you and graduate you and elevate you and multiply you. You know what I'm saying? Or, hey, cut some people off to grow you. Cut situations out to uplift you. He exalts the one who believes in him. He chooses who he uplifts and who he brings down. So humble yourself and trust your Father. Let me tell you about my Yah. He's good. So that's all I got to say. For some reason, all my girls are clucking and chucking around me. So I'm going to get off here. But again, as always, thank you for coming back to break this bread. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't like it. Hey, it is what it is. But I love y'all, and much shalom.